Scunthorpe United had lost 4-0 at home to Exeter City this afternoon.
Love it.
Open wide for some soccer!
Good evening, everybody. Welcome so much for joining us. Like a Ian Holloway training ground workout, this is going to be cobbled together at the last minute with no sense of professionalism whatsoever, and we'll all probably end up getting completely and utterly fucked along the way. I am joined, as always, by the inimical Bruce, who seems to have a new table in the background.
It's something that the wife's got on Buddy's Facebook Marketplace that hasn't sold, that somehow ended up in here. So I think it's gonna be free soon, I think.
So if
I have done some preparation, thank you.
Bruce, do you want to show it off in any way so that we can get some sellers for it? What is it, and how much do you want for it?
Well, she wanted a tenner, I think, but there's no interest in that. People just want something for nothing. It's a bit shit, really, if I'm honest.
I
it's
can
a
understand
storage
why it's still
unit,
in the
right?
office.
It's laid on its side. It's a storage unit, and it's got a little bit here. Look, so imagine it the other way around. This is not one for those that are listening later on, not watching. It's got a little box thing that comes out, right? But I don't really see what purpose it serves. Why would you take that out?
Here's Bruce. He's going to show it off.
Yeah. So yes, it's a shit piece of furniture, and if anybody wants it, they can have it for free.
And you can totally guess now why it's still there if Bruce is selling it as he is.
Yeah,
but it's there if anybody needs it. He says
I won't be on the shopping channel.
Giving it away for free, did you say?
They can have it. Yeah, I want rid of it. She's not going to get a tenner for it. Somebody will message you and say, "Will you take £3?" And then you're like, "Oh, just have it. I can't be arsed with you." So yeah.
I'll have it. Can you pay £2? And
no, will I deliver it down to Hertfordshire?
Yeah. I mean, shall I ask Leanne if she wants it? She might. It's only a short distance to Hampshire.
Hampshire, sorry, yeah, Hertfordshire, sorry, that's my shit southern-based geography.
Don't worry, the Narky one on Humberside.
We can trade it at Halifax. We can trade it at Chesterfield on Saturday if you want.
Yeah, there you go. And then also joining us on time, because Tom's just arrived in the green room, which assumes he isn't. Yeah, he isn't a father yet. Elliot, how are you? Welcome back. Welcome to your Star Wars pit.
Thank you. Yeah, good to be back. And Bruce, if that's what you put on the listing of that, I'm not surprised that it's not sold yet.
You can have it if you want. I'll bring it because you'll be at Chesterfield. I
will be at Chesterfield. Thank you. Why do I feel like you're gonna set up outside the Pro Act with like a car boot sale?
I could split it and sell this and give this. Isn't it? I could give this bit away separately as a coloured box shaped thing that's got no bottom. Yeah. Anyway, enough about that because, like I say, that's not very good for those that aren't watching.
And much like his wife, arriving very late, Tom, how are you?
All right, mate. What are you flogging, Bruce?
Oh, don't, mate. It's too late. It's done. It's done. But is it like his wife or a Paul Hurst substitution, Alex?
I don't know which one's later, Tom or that. Yeah. Well, we've got a bit to get through. I tried to find someone from Hartlepool to talk us through their new man in the moment, but now we've got three of you on. We can really have a proper discussion about what we've changed. A lot of changes since the last time we recorded this time last week. Town have obviously lost to Solihull Moors, which is quite nice that we've had a bit of time between that because I was more ranty than I think I should be about it. And since then, we've got revenge on those East End slags, Dagenham and Redbridge. Apologies, I'm full of COVID, so if I cough halfway through, or keel over, you know why. Bruce, I'll give you the password. You can just shuffle me off the screen. So how was it yesterday? Thoughts, reviews. Tom was not there. He was being a part-timer because he thinks nursing is his mother, the mother to be. I mean, you got a Mother's Day out of the way. Here's a question, Tom. Did you get a Mother's Day card in preparation?
Yeah, I did. And on the Mother's Day card, I put I am, because I've got a brother, basically something along the lines of I am son number one because I'm going to provide you with your first grandchild on Mother's Day or there or thereabouts, which can obviously never be topped as a Mother's Day present. And that hadn't materialised.
But had you not got your kids back and already got one in the drawer for them when they arrived? Because what happens if they'd have come on Friday? They don't have time to get down to the shops.
Yeah, no, I just sorted my own problems out, to be honest with you.
You'd have made them look a right mug this morning. At least think about it like this way: you saved 99p, and I'm sure Ellen will be absolutely delighted. That's how we view it. Well, getting off track. How were we yesterday? It sounded comfortable on radio, even with Tonda commentating. So it didn't sound like the ball was perpetually on the line.
No, I thought they were comfortable. If I'm honest, I thought that the 1-goal margin between the two teams probably flattered Dagenham. I think without being brilliant yesterday, I think Grimsby didn't really have to get out of third gear to beat what is a very decent Dagenham side that beat them in the reverse fixture, of course, and have been on decent form yesterday. I was quite disappointed with Dagenham, to be honest. I didn't think they looked brilliant. They didn't pose much of a threat going forward. And it wasn't until sort of Max Crocombe had to pick the ball out of his own net in stoppage time that Grimsby really had anything to do defensively. But nonetheless, I thought Grimsby were good. Should have had a third goal at 2-0 when McAtee's goal not only did the shot cross the line, but it was also handled off the line anyway. So that definitely should have been either a goal or a penalty. We've seen the footage back since Liam had got that on video. But they were comfortable, and that's not always something we've been able to say against top 10 opposition. You know, the record is quite well known. They'd only won 2 games against fellow top 10 teams before Saturday. So really good to get the response. Scored at the right times, which is obviously something they didn't do in midweek. That second goal from Waterfall really did come at the right moment. And I thought it was quite a slow start to the game. The first sort of 25 minutes I thought was quite tepid. I think because of the heat and also because of a third game in 7 days for both teams. It was quite slow, quite methodical, and then Grimsby sort of caught them cold with the opener and then got the second before half-time, and you never really feared that Dagenham were going to come back from that point.
Was that your view of it pretty much, Bruce, or anything else you can lighten us? When their goal went in, I didn't... It was just passed off as, they've scored. All right, okay.
I'm just disappointed that we're gonna go out on a miserable note because you've not done what Tom said last week. We've started with the most recent game, or was that the bit where you said you ranted too much? Is that us done with Solihull? Yesterday I was a bit like Elliot. I was really disappointed. It sounds a bit miserable when we've won a game, but I was really disappointed with them yesterday. I would imagine, having not seen them, I didn't do the reverse fixture, that was a poor performance by them because they just offered nothing, and we didn't have to get out of second gear. That it was just a routine home win, it was just they just offered very little. But I did think that we looked a different side with 2 wingers, with 2 proper wingers who were attacking, because when we were getting forward, we were tending to get 3 and 4. Even 5 players forward, whereas I think we've been guilty in the past of not having, because we've set up with a bit more defensive midfield. We've not always been the quickest to get forward and support the attacks, and quite often it'll be perhaps Sousa and McAtee and Taylor or whatever. And yesterday, if we went down the left, you've got Maguire Drew on the other side, and you'd got Taylor and McAtee in the middle, and usually you got Clifton getting forward from midfield as well. So I thought we looked at a different side, much more mobile, and much better carrying the ball. And I thought Cropper had an excellent debut. He didn't have loads to do defensively, but he looked comfortable on the ball. I'm sure you'll come on to his secret weapon, not so secret anymore, in a minute, but. And his distribution was good. He played 2 or 3 checked passes down the inside right channel that were into McAtee or whoever was running up there. right into the feet and put us right on the front foot on an attacking front. But yeah, it was that comfortable second half. I was in my shorts in the lower, which is unheard of, especially in March.
What
it
a
was just
twat.
it was just very civilized. Everyone was just chatting, and it didn't feel like they offered any sort of threat at 2-0. And a bit like Elliot said, or like you said on the radio, it was, oh, they've scored. Oh shit, we've got another 4 minutes here. And even after that, they didn't put us under any pressure. We just saw it out like other teams seem to do when we're chasing a game, which was quite nice. And Crocombe didn't really have anything to do. I don't know whether I've not seen their goal yet. I don't know whether somebody switched off or it was a good move, but it was just a ball into the box, and yeah, it was in the back of our net. But yeah, pretty routine, and we go again Saturday.
It's nice to hear, really. It feels like we're getting to a point where I'm slightly worried about with how many new guys we've got in and how many changes Hurst has made over the season, but it does feel a little bit less makeshift, even with how good. I've only just started talking, Bruce.
Yeah, I'll wait. It ties in with what you're saying, but I'll wait.
Yeah, and it was just like even Clifton has been pretty decent this season. And I know when last time Elliot was on, I said, look, I don't think we'll ever win a league with him as a mainstay in the 11. Even though he's been quite accomplished in that, and I think he's had a decent season, it always still feels a little bit makeshift with him at the left side. That like, oh, he's there just because he's the only one competent enough to be there. But with as you said, a few other options down the wings. Did we see many overlaps yesterday, Bruce? And then you can follow into what you were going to say, because that's what I always look for, and I haven't seen much of that this season.
Yeah, there was a couple of times. I don't know if Elliot got a great view from in the first half where Maguire Drew, when he gets the ball on the right hand side, his first thought is to deliver the ball, and quite often he'll check back onto his left foot. And a couple of times Cropper had got forward and he delivered fairly decent balls into the box anyway, because he's got that little bit of technical ability that perhaps some of the others haven't got. But we did have, he was certainly coming forward on that side. I can't comment so much on the other side with Danny Amos, but yeah, certainly on our side. No, all I was going to say was, you were talking about players that we've used. Do you know how many players we have used this season?
It was 45 who've made a league start, was when I counted up until last week, because Hurst made that
45?
45 different players?
No, I think
that's
like that. Not.
Oh, is it 34 then? Is that what I'm thinking?
That sounds way too high.
I'm reliably informed it's 35.
There we go.
We've used 35 players this season.
Because I know I'd put it out there, and I know we'd used 11 more than Solihull, because that was obviously off the back of Elliot's article with her saying, oh, people from Solihull Mills had picked us because they were paying more. Well, you've got 11 more players, mate. Like, they just keep buying the same player.
Did you see that only 3 players started yesterday that had started the first game of the season as well?
Yeah, I had. And look, we probably need to go into this when we review the season. But when you've got key players, maybe you didn't know that Alex Hunt was going to be a key player. But when you've got players who are only here for 6 months, you do leave yourself vulnerable. But I guess he's even surprised. I don't think he'd have expected to have to change Sears. I don't think he'd have had to expected to see the same injuries he had with the likes of Reiki, which is one of the reasons why I guess he brought Burgess in and the like. But Scannell, but you've got people like Scannell and Grant in there that just aren't featuring, and he brought them in, so you got to wonder why. But it is a high turnover, but we're also seeing a lot more loans between the league. Like,
I was surprised by the Joey Jones one.
Yes,
that even caught me off guard. It's weird to think that a team who are below Grimsby are loaning a player who's not featuring that regularly to someone that's above them. That it just sounds weird in your head, doesn't it?
It really does. Tom, we haven't really heard your thoughts at the moment. Did you get to listen yesterday? I know you're probably on tender hooks, wandering around to make sure nothing's happening.
No, unfortunately, yesterday I didn't listen. But I think there's a couple of things that you can take away from the result, which is they were in form going into that game. I think they won like 4 out of the last 5, something like that. Elliot might be able to correct me if I'm wrong. And they were like only a point behind us as well. So they would definitely been looking at that game on our recent form thinking that's a winnable game, and if we beat them, we're going to be back knocking on the door of the playoffs. So to come away with a 2-1 win, whether it's home, away, or whatever, I think is a cracking result, and it's got us back into the playoffs, which is where we want to be. And then with regard to the sort of the new players coming in, two out of the three new players that we have signed started the game yesterday. So, and one of them's been on trial for a week and impressed enough to not only get in the squad but start. So I think that's a positive in terms of we're signing players that we think are better than what we've got, which is really what you should do when you're looking to bring in players. There's no point in bringing in players who are the same as what you've got or not as good as what you've got. And that's why it's interesting that we've brought in the player from Dagenham and Redbridge. It makes you wonder whether he won't get in a game because he was getting played out of position, or someone in his position was better than him or performing better than what their manager thought he was performing at, and that's why he's ended up coming to us. I mean, why in other seasons we've had players on loan from the same division. We certainly did when we were in the Championship, and we certainly did when we were in League One and League Two. So why should it be an anomaly in this division? I don't really think that's a bad thing as long as they improve our squad. And then my other point was going to be, I think that's a really positive result. I can't remember if we've only got 8 games left now, but certainly of our remaining official 8 games, we've only got to play 2 teams that are currently in the top 7. So we're actually coming into a period where
they are Stockport and Chesterfield.
They are Stockport and Chesterfield, but
Borehamwood,
so Borehamwood is the one that I missed then. So we've got 3 out of the top 3 out of the top 7 out of 9 games remaining. So really, we've got 6 games where we can really target sort of 3 points. And I think we discussed it in the thread, like leading up to the pod, how many points we might need. I think 18 points would be enough to get us in the playoffs easy.
I mean, we should probably talk about that at some point because I've got us getting 15. So I'll be ranty then if we miss out by 3 points, I guess. It's an interesting one. It's certainly tightening, but our form looks a little bit more middling now with a couple of defeats in there. We'll go through a couple of comments that have come through. Then we'll probably just move on quickly to what your review of Solihull was as well, and we'll wrap up what we've got on Dagenham as well. Lots of love coming out for Luke Waterfall and Harry Clifton. But I think we've got to start really by talking about what David Webster and Carl Talbot have said about Cropper's throws. I mean, was this something, Elliot, especially for you, was this something that you knew about when he came in? Or
well, very interestingly, we interviewed Jordan after the game yesterday. So I've got the interview with him coming out 6 a.m. in the morning. So a little bit of a sneak preview. So it's really interesting, his backstory. So basically, he obviously was released by Burnley in the summer, and he had surgery on his hamstring, which should have taken about 4 months, and that's obviously still a bad injury. And it took 8 to 9 months to get himself fit, with the help of Burnley, as Premier League clubs often do, even with the releasing players that helped him with his rehab. He was there for 4 years, so he was really well thought of, and it was that injury that sort of really set him back. And it's a surprise, really, that he's not been able to get in. He's been on trial at a few Football League clubs, didn't manage to get a deal. It's just getting up to that fitness, and he's been training with Grimsby for about a week, 10 days. So Hurst was going to sign him regardless, and then Afete obviously got injured, which made the timing even better. But yeah, I asked him about the long throws, and he said it was never something he was really aware of when he was younger. And then when he started playing 11-a-side when he was like 13, 14, he just sort of developed it and sort of just like realized he could throw the ball really far, as daft as that sounds. And it just became a weapon, and he realized how dangerous it could be. And in all seriousness, I do think it is a weapon. He was sort of saying that the advantage you've got with the long throw is obviously the trajectory can be better than a corner at times. You're not going to hit the first man unless you obviously misthrow it and it slips out your hands. And it tends to cause panic in a way that a corner doesn't. And I think we saw that on a few occasions with Dagenham, where they just didn't really know how to deal with it. And there's no real logical reason as to why, because you deal with corners 5 or 6 times a game. But it just seems to cause mayhem. And I think it could be a really useful weapon. It's just a good thing to have in your armory, really, isn't it?
You're right with the trajectory because it comes in a lot flatter, doesn't it? And
Yes.
probably and so if it's coming at you at speed, you can get your foot around it. If there's a body of players there, I can understand why it causes a bit of
probably
panic.
less pace on it when it arrives at you as well. So in terms of like guiding it out as a defender, that's probably harder. You've probably got to, knock your man out of the way. Basically, it's a bit more of a physical battle. So if you're throwing Luke Waterfall up from a long throw-in or something, you'd think that's something he can really thrive from potentially.
And how is Luke Waterfall performing at the moment in terms of he's getting a lot of credit? He seems to be he's making a good relationship with with Andy Smith at the back. Is that right? Yeah.
I think Waterfall personally looks like he's playing better because of Andy Smith. I think Andy Smith's been fantastic. I think the two of them complement each other brilliantly. I think people have noticed Waterfall's improvement, and I don't think that's a coincidence that he's now got someone with a little bit more pace next to him. Because I like Pearson. I thought Pearson was really hard done to come out, and I actually would have said prior to these last few games, Pearson had been better in 2022 than Waterfall has. And I think it's just because as good as they are individually, they're a bit similar. And I think having Andy Smith there, who's a bit more, he's got a bit more range of movement, he's got a turn of pace. There was one really early on yesterday where Taka knocks it round Andy Smith and you think he's dived in a little bit early and he just recovery pace and he shields it out for a goal kick. And I really like Andy Smith at centre-back. I don't want to see him playing at right-back for the rest of the season because that's his best position. And I think the pair complement each other. And if they'd seen out the last few minutes yesterday, that would have been 3 clean sheets in 4. The only goals conceded in that time would have been when Smith got moved to right-back, obviously, when Solihull made their comeback. And I really, really like Andy Smith. And I think he's the reason that Waterfall's looking even better because they've just got contrasting qualities. And Waterfall, we know, is so good physically. We know he's more of a kick it and head it kind of defender, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way. Whereas Andy Smith's got a bit more composure on the ball, his range of passing is a little bit better, he's got a bit more pace, and the two of them together, I just think it's a really good combination. It's really harsh on Pearson because I think he's been really good this year, but I wouldn't be changing that anytime soon. And I think that it's a real asset to have someone with just a bit more of a turn of pace because I think we saw at times there was the Aldershot game where Waterfall was just getting done a little bit, and when you've got someone like Pearson who's not got that recovery pace to get round the back of you, then it probably does hang in the mind a little bit. Whereas Waterfall can go in probably a bit more confident, knowing if I miss this, I've got Andy coming round the back of me, who's got a bit more pace, and it's not quite as punishing if they don't quite get that timing right. It's
very similar to what happened at Dover as well.
Yes, that's a good example of that. Yeah,
just turned both of them. And he didn't really have much else to it. Thankfully, he has the shooting ability of pretty much every striker we've signed for the last.
Did score a hat-trick yesterday, though?
He did, yes. Didn't count for much, though, as the Wrexham fans keep telling me. So hello to any of them watching. Remember to like and subscribe. Is there any other comments from yesterday that I should really make before we move on? Comfortable performance? Anyone else standing out? JMD back and sort of starting regularly. How did he look? Tonda was talking frustratingly really about actually probably Crofty was more than it in terms of he's a bit he would like to turn inside a couple more times before maybe playing that ball earlier. Is that an issue, or am I just finding things to nitpick at?
I thought he just liked to turn onto his, as I said at the start, really. I think he just likes to cut inside onto his left foot and then deliver with his left foot. That's looked like, I didn't think he was sort of beating a man and then beating a man again. He just looked more comfortable crossing the ball on his left foot, and they didn't seem to notice. He must have got half a dozen crosses in like that during the course of the game. And just my final point on the long throw that Elliot was talking about, I don't think we really need to be working on that now. And I know we haven't been here that long because he put a lot of good throws in, and they're more driven than they're like Alex Hunt's corners rather than the corners that we've been taking recently. And we didn't get bodies near enough to them, and that was criminal. And a couple of times he was really frustrated that he'd put a really bullet-like throw in right into the penalty area, and then nobody had got anywhere near it. So they need to learn quickly because that is a real weapon.
Are you saying we also now need to start taking strategic towels and laying them out?
He don't need towels.
Okay. That's the title sorted. Tom, what were you going to say before we moved on from that? I'll talk about the kids' takeover in a second.
Well, I think if from what Bruce is saying, maybe we'll see a return to how sort of Waterfall and Hunt linked up early on in the season. If he can really smash them in on a sort of straight trajectory. And then the other thing I wanted to say, I've already forgotten about it, so can't have been that interesting.
That's no problem. Kids take over yesterday. Elliot, I don't know if you had a little work experience kid wandering around with you or anything.
No, sadly not. John did though, and it was great. I tweeted about it last night. In all seriousness, we shouldn't take these things for granted. It's great how the Mariners Trust do this sort of work, and it was just great. It was the stadium was packed. I was really surprised by the attendance actually, in terms of I felt like it was busier and there was more people there than I think it was 4,804 odd. It felt busier than that. I thought we'd be closer to the 5.5, 6K just based on the amount of people that were walking around. Us in the press room, obviously where we are in the press box, it was all lined up with kids in front of sort of the pitch side and right up to kick off, and it had a great atmosphere about it. And it's another great initiative from the club. They've done it on a lot of occasions where they've done reduced tickets or tickets for families to get people through the gate, and you can't give them enough credit really, because they absolutely deserve it.
I think that leads in nicely as well. That I put in our group. I had a Greek chat yesterday, and the food, and somebody walked out the bar after walked out the fan zone, which was you can imagine was an absolute sun trap yesterday, just after half time. And the guy behind me, and he just said, "God, we're lucky now. You know, I've just had a decent pint, I've had decent food, and you know,
that gyros was brilliant. I had one of those before the match.
Oh,
really nice.
Mixed gyro, yeah, it was just like
I had one
absolutely
banging. Mine was free as well, which just to stick the knife in, because they've not sorted the card payment up yet, so they just gave it me.
Yeah, but yours was done before the cookers piped up.
Oh
properly.
my god, I can. Don't be saying that. The feature writer will be having you doing a piece on it. You know those ones that.
I'll do that if it gets me free food. I'll do that any day.
You know, Elliot probably can't comment, but you know, I went to the new McDonald's on North Street today, and this is my review. It's exactly the same as the other 45,000 in the country. But anyway, I'm expecting that now from every corner.
I'm sorry. Elliot. We need to give Bruce a bit more stick for retaking his seat after half time when he's constantly banging on about like the atmosphere at games in the south of England.
I was inside.
You're not contributing. You're not contributing out to the atmosphere from the fan zone, scoffing your gyro, mate. You know, come on, get back in. And I bet you left 5 minutes before half time to get in the queue, didn't you?
I wasn't.
The poor bloke in front of him's going, "Oh my god, he's got tzatziki all over me."
No, we actually, I was standing outside the fan zone when the second half started, and we'd found a sunny little corner, which was all right for about 5 minutes.
You were the pitch, were you, Bruce?
It was all right for about 5 minutes, and then the team, the yellow team, came and got us, and so we weren't allowed to stand there.
Talking.
I inquired if he'd heard the fire alarm, but he didn't seem impressed. But so we had to move back to our seats in the shade.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, man. Maybe we should get the temporary seating back for the summer. This is why, as I've always said, my unpopular opinion, our game should be moved to the summer. Our season would be so much more enjoyable sat in the sun, especially for those of us who are going a bit weak on top. We can,
if we had a big stand where the main stand is, that'd be good as well, wouldn't it?
Oh god,
that does get the sun, and it's sheltered from the weather as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, so we should really talk. Says Martin Woolridge put something in. He says, "Why is everyone so negative at the moment?" And the crowds are, and sort of harping back to what Elliot was saying, crowds staying away. We're sat in the playoffs. We've got a decent run going. We've got good permanent additions, and Scannell's looking good. I'm not sure that's a crowd puller. Anything can happen in the playoffs. So, is there a negativity? What is this sort of little cloud that's hanging over? Why are we not getting the same numbers we were at the start of the season?
I was surprised by midweek against Solihull. I thought it would have been a big crowd. I know it's a midweek game, which obviously is difficult, and people have work and everything. But I think it was just about 4,500 or something like that. I was surprised because that was a really big game. And as I say, I wouldn't be critical. I was just surprised at the number on Saturday because it felt like more. It wasn't like I thought there should have been more. I just thought it looked that there was about 5,500, 6,000. Maybe just from where I was and how busy it was pre-match, and there was just shy of 5,000. So I was more surprised by that. But yeah, I was a little bit surprised. And I don't think there is much reason to be negative. Yeah, the defeat, we were all frustrated, and Hurst was, and everyone was upset at the way they threw away the last 12 minutes in midweek. But that aside, they've lost 2 games in 10. They lost to Southend, which was the only game I've missed since October, actually. But by all accounts, they were pretty poor. And then, of course, they lost in midweek in a game that they should have at least taken a point from. But it wasn't a bad performance. So you're probably looking at 1 bad performance in 10. Not that much to be negative about. Yes, other teams have got games in hand, and if you're looking at points per game, Grimsby is probably outside the playoffs, but they're not far away by any means. And you look at the gap to Notts County was 4 points before the start of the weekend. Now it's 2. It only takes one sort of match day for Grimsby to make some ground up if they can keep winning games. So I don't think there's any reason to be negative going in with 8 games to go, 10 games to go, 9 games. It's 9 games. In fact, there's 9 games to go.
Well, it'd be good to get everybody else's thoughts. And those of you who are listening, what can we do to sort of maintain that positivity? Have we just not shaken off that negativity since Christmas and that run?
I think that's what it is.
Tom, did you have your hand up? Did you have a thought on it?
Yeah, I think the 2 losses in close sort of succession have probably contributed to a loss of momentum in terms of the fan base. I think your sort of casual supporter who thinks, oh yeah, I'll get a ticket on the Saturday, has probably looked at the last 2 games and thought, well, yeah, I might go if we win on Tuesday night, and then obviously we didn't win, and that was another loss. Having only just recently lost, and they've just thought, oh well, sod it. And then I also think we're still averaging about 5,000 a week, aren't we? And I think that's pretty good going, considering when we were in what is now the Championship, we were averaging about 6.5, and we're 3 divisions below that, and we're averaging 5,000 this season. And I just think that's reflective of the support for the club in the town. Really, there's a really good hardcore there, but we do struggle to attract people beyond sort of maybe double that hardcore. After that, it seems to be, for whatever reason, a bit of a struggle for us. And I'm sure you all saw my amazing thread in the week with Baz. There are definitely supporters out there who think that we don't take the game to other teams, and that Hurst is quite negative, and there are lots of supporters still out there who, I'm not accusing Baz in this instance of it, but there is certainly
he definitely is Baz,
a group of supporters out there that are negative towards Hurst, in the sense that they don't really like him, and they think that he's not good at what he does. And the late substitutions is, for me, the best example of that, because it shows a lack of, for want of a better word, a lack of ambition to try and go and win games. We've discussed it before on the pod, that he said in an interview, I think with Tonda, it might have even been with Elliot, I can't remember, where he said he likes to let the players who started the game go out and win the game in the second half, which is why he tends to leave his substitutions later. And I think on this podcast before, we've discussed how, certainly for me personally, since he was here the first time round, a criticism that I would have had of him was that his substitutions are always too late, and his set pieces aren't brilliant for someone who came from non-league, where they're such a crucial thing. And I still think that resonates with a lot of supporters who are like, well, if we're on a bit of a bad run, why bother?
I'm obviously clearly jinxed, because all the games I see this season, we've been pretty shit. Aside from Halifax at home, and when did we perform? We performed all right at Boreham Wood.
Did you go to Notts County? Notts County was good.
Didn't go to Notts County. No. So any game sort of south of the M40, I was there, and I'm not really...
Aldershot, Woking.
Yeah, Aldershot. Woking was okay, but it was a bit like Boreham Wood, really. Like, it was a lucky...
Just scored the late goal that time, didn't they?
I'm not looking forward to games. I'm not buzzing. I'm looking forward to them, but I'm not, it doesn't feel like 2015, 2016, but there's a separation as well. I think everything off the pitch is wonderful and is going incredible. And you worry that sometimes the stuff that's going on the pitch, and Hurst is quite conservative at times, and it wins you games, but it doesn't get people off their seats, and is probably contributing to at times poor atmosphere as well.
They just don't score a lot of goals as well, which comes into it, do they? Like when you look at Hurst sort of said in midweek, we can't. It's all on John at the minute because Ryan Taylor's not that type of striker. The wide players haven't scored enough goals. You look at Eriko Sousa for someone that has the ability to beat a man as he does. He scored 2 goals this season. Harry Clifton's got 5, which isn't a bad effort, but hadn't scored since Aldershot away before he scored, which was November, I think, before he scored in midweek. So that's a 3-month drought for him. Scannell's not been on the pitch to contribute, and Maguire Drew's got 4, which is a decent effort, but he's had injuries, so he's been disrupted as well. I think the third top scorer is Luke Waterfall now with 5. So you're looking at McAtee on 11, Taylor on 7, and then Waterfall on 5. They've not scored enough goals from midfield or wide, and I think Holohan will be interesting because he's definitely been brought in with that in mind to try and score more goals. And Hurst is definitely aware of it, but it's how do you get more goals? And I don't think the teams are negative he's coming up with. Certainly at the weekend it wasn't. He went with 2 relatively attacking midfielders in Burgess and Holohan against Solihull as well. Yes, Clifton's playing on the left, but essentially Holohan's quite an advanced midfielder. McAtee, Maguire, Drew, Taylor. So it's just the players chipping in a little bit more. And I think in midweek the substitution stuff was a bit harsh. I would agree with you that over the course of the season, I think Hurst is late to make subs. And there's been games where it's cost Grimsby. I think the Bromley game at home is the biggest example where the game was just sat ready to be won and Grimsby didn't make a change till 75 minutes and it cost them. But I think in midweek, he'd made 1 change with Efete going off injured. He'd made another one with Maguire Drew off for Sousa, which was about fair because Maguire Drew's race was about run at that point. And then other than changing the striker, but that's still like for like, he wasn't going to be who else would you have taken off? So I think in midweek, I wouldn't have levelled that criticism at him, but I'm not saying that it's not a fair criticism over the course of the season because I definitely think it is.
We do have to talk about that goal we did concede against Solihull Moors, where the first one, because that was fucking shit on everybody. It was shit for allowing them to come inside. It was shit by Crocombe to just parry it into the middle of nowhere, and it was shit of the defence not to be the first to react to get it away.
I actually thought it was a really good save by Crocombe on first viewing, and then obviously I've seen the replay and it wasn't. But live, it actually looked like a really good save from Crocombe. but obviously that was not quite the case.
No. I think the other thing to say is as well with regard to substitutions, and I made this point the other week, was we haven't got the marquee squad in the league, whether people like it or not. Like people see us as one of the big teams in the league, which we are, but we're certainly not the biggest club in terms of in terms of budget and in terms of squad this season. And we don't have like the squad that Stockport, arguably Chesterfield and Wrexham do in terms of like being able to make changes and bring on players that are, Elliot said like for like there. Yes, it's like for like in terms of position, but is it like for like in terms of quality? Probably not. And also I think with regard to like people expecting us to like really be total entertainers during games, I think a lot of people forget that a lot of football games are fucking dull. They are really boring. Football can be really, really boring. And the reason you remember the really epic battles and the really good games is because they are, in essence, few and far between. Like I think of some of the games that I went to this year. I actually thought the Woking game was a really cracking game of football. I thought it was 2 teams really going at it end to end. Both teams had decent chances, and we nicked a win in a really tight but competitive game. Aldershot away, I think if you take away the fact that we were really disappointed with that result at the time, it was actually a really good game of football.
No, not at all. We were absolutely.
Yeah, you're always going to say that because you're Mr. Negative.
No,
and then Maidenhead, for example.
I'm sorry, I will mute you in a second. Aldershot, that performance was absolute dog shit. And if
I didn't say the performance was good, I said the game was good. There's a difference, isn't there?
The performance or the entertainment value, it was dog shit, absolute dog shit. And if you say anything else, you are low. I'm lowering my expectations of you as a pundit because that is disgusting. To come away from Aldershot and go, that was a good game. Oh, I don't know.
It was a good game. I can't remember who at the bar. One team at the bar. We had one cleared off the line. We went really close late on in the second half. It was 2-1. There was goals. It was a good game of football. I went with 4 neutrals who all came away and said, I enjoyed that. That was a good game of football. Like, if you go to a game with 4 neutrals, yes, John Lewis, it was horrendous. It wasn't a great performance from us, but it was a good game of football. There's a difference between, like, I don't know if anybody watched the League Cup final a few weeks ago. I thought the League Cup final, for an advert for Premiership football, wasn't a brilliant advert for Premiership football. It wasn't full of quality, but it was a good game because it was just end to end. It was frantic. Neither team really got hold of it in midfield, and that opened the game up and allowed both teams to really go and attack it. And relatively speaking,
you've gone full mercy here.
There
I
are games
to
like
agree
that.
with him, though.
I'll cut you off and all.
I know. I'm not doing myself famous, but I see what he's saying, and I do tend to agree on some of them. They have been entertaining games. Like Boreham Wood wasn't entertaining remotely, but the other 0-0s have been. Like,
no, that's where I was kind of trying to pick up on that point, because Boreham Wood was the game I think that sparked this huge thread that I was involved in the week, and people saying that it was rubbish and that it wasn't a great performance. I can accept that, but I think a lot of people tend to forget that lots of football is actually quite dull, and you go to games and nothing really happens, and it's one moment that wins you the game, and everyone comes away and thinks, oh yeah, we won the game, that's brilliant, and they forget about the rest of it.
It's
one moment that could be the manager's change.
And the only time I've ever been really angry with Paul Hurst for lack of substitutions and changing was at Southend, where it was a pretty shit game and they changed the game after they'd scored before he had. And that I found quite ludicrous.
I thought Bromley's the one that sticks in my head. The home game where it was 1-1 for so much of the second half, no one taking the ascendancy. And then we made changes at like the 75th minute, and they scored in like the 80th, and they won it. And they didn't play that well. So only 4 teams have won it, or 5 now have won at Blundell Park this season.
Yeah,
and it just felt like a cheap defeat that we could have won if we'd just been a bit braver.
But look at, like, if you're looking at the league at the moment, so you got the 3 big spenders now are at the top in Stockport, Wrexham, and Chesterfield. After that, I'd probably still put Notts County above us, given that they were in the playoffs last season. Their
running's really nice as well. I don't know if you've seen, they've had some tough fixtures recently, but I don't think they've got anyone in the top 10 left to play. So I asked this to Paul, actually. I asked him on Thursday how many spots he thought were up for grabs. And he said definitely 1, maybe 2. And I think he was sort of giving away, he was putting Notts County in there as well. And I sort of said to him, you're only 4 points behind, and they're still only 2 points behind now. But I think he sort of feels like definitely Boreham Wood's up for grabs, but Notts County is up for grabs when you look at points. But if you look at their games they've got to play, they've got really favourable fixtures. I think they've got to play Dover twice still. That wasn't an easy game yesterday, was it?
Notts County have only got Solihull, Southend left, who were like probably done now.
They're middling off now as well, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly.
They're not quite where they were a few weeks ago.
And then you've got, but then looking at the league table, only Halifax and Solihull Moors are above us that I would say, yeah, we should probably be beating them. But Halifax seem to be just the surprise package this season. So I can't really complain, because I'd have also expected maybe Torquay to be up there, given that they were in the final.
Yeah, they did really well.
The semi-finals. And then I don't know. After looking at that, I don't really know who else I'd have expected up there. But that's probably where we're probably 1 space lower than I thought we would be at this time of the year. I think my only worry is that you've got Boreham Wood with 3 games in hand. Granted, it's 2 because one of theirs is against us, I guess. But
they only won 1 in 9, though.
Have they really?
Or 1 in 8.
And they didn't look spectacular when we played them.
I thought they were really poor when we played them. I thought that they really looked like they wanted a draw. They were happy with a draw, which, again, imagine if people were critical of Hurst's performance and his tactics at Boreham Wood, which I think was a really good point, and I don't quite understand that. Imagine if you've been a fan of Boreham Wood and you're setting up like that at home. That's negative.
I worry sometimes that we just don't get enough shots off. That's the one thing that I always come away with is that I think in terms of goals, if you look at the league, there's 8 teams that have scored more goals than us this season. I just don't think we get many shots away, actually. I think we're quite clinical, but I just don't think we get. You don't have that sort of, very rare do we have that 20, 15-minute passage of play where we get quite a few shots on goal and you're pumping.
I think if you try to think how many games have you come away from where you think the goalkeeper's been man of the match for the opposition, I think the goalkeeper at Boreham Wood made some really important saves to it against McAtee and Maguire-Drew, but I can't think of many games where I've come away and thought they've really peppered the goalkeeper and he's just had a man of the match performance. Halifax. Despite the sort of dominance in open play. Yeah, Halifax at home, that was more just missing the target. But yeah, Halifax at home, probably Notts County at home as well. They were 2 where they had lots of chances, but otherwise, I can't think.
QPR away about 20 years ago.
QPR away, yeah, that was good. Yeah, QPR away. God, still comes to me. But Tom thinks Aldershot was a good game, so you can't trust whatever he says. QPR is probably, we're probably all over them. Is there anything else we really need to talk about in terms of the guys coming in? We want to really talk about Kevin Broughton has just said Altrincham as well.
Altrincham was a good game, yeah. That was a really good game.
Is it Holohan? How is he? How's he settled? What are we expecting from him? He seems a big signing, and Hartlepool fans looked quite disappointed to lose him. Bruce, what were you going to say?
He looked. I thought he looked good. He tired on Tuesday, but I thought he got through the 90 minutes sort of well yesterday, neat and tidy. And what you see with the better quality players that come in is they move the ball so much quicker than others do. His touch is good and his distribution was good, and I think he and Clifton in the centre of a midfield 2 or central midfield 2 is good. I like that. And yeah, like you say, he seems highly rated, and he's come straight in and slotted in nicely. So yeah, he looks the part. Hopefully, we won't bring any more players in because the window's closed now, hasn't it? But yeah, let's hope that some of these players he's signed a bit longer, hasn't he? He's here for
2024, so two and a bit years.
Seasons, yeah, after this season. So that's really good. And once our geography has helped us, hasn't it, with him living in Hull?
Poor bastard. What was the reason he left Hartlepool? Because they were singing his praises. Do you know any more about that, Elliot?
Yeah, he just wasn't getting game time. He sort of played a big role in them getting up last season. Strike rate's really good, about 1 in 5, which for a central midfielder is really good. Big fans' favourite, but he just wasn't getting the games. And I think he's 30, obviously, and I think he was at the point where if he'd played any more games, he'd have triggered an extra 1-year deal. And that's why he hadn't played. It was his first start in 9 weeks on Tuesday night, so you can understand why there was a bit of rust in that first sort of 25 minutes. I thought he wasn't really in the game for the first 25 minutes, and then I thought he grew into it as he got stronger, certainly between like half an hour to sort of 70 minutes, 80 minutes, and then as Bruce said, he probably tired a little bit at the end. But I think he's a player that he's not doing anything spectacular at the minute, but he's neat and tidy, he does everything well. And then I think when that match sharpness comes, you'll then see the extra bit of quality certainly coming. But it feels a big signing, and I think they probably wouldn't have got him unless they'd given him the security of a longer deal, and that definitely played a part. Because again, we interviewed him on Thursday, and that definitely played a part in his decision to sign. He's coming into a project. He lives nearby. It just suits him in every way, and I think he'll be a real asset, certainly. And I think a lot of clubs would have been looking. They'd have struggled to get him, I think, a lot more in the summer as a free agent. I think a lot more clubs in the National League that maybe would have offered bigger wages potentially would have been interested. But Grimsby have gone in at the right time. It suits him, and it just seems a good deal for everyone.
Are we? Have we got everything we need to talk about at the moment? Because then we'll go on to the result this evening with the women's team. All good. Did Daniel Randall wants to know if we paid a fee for him? I assume we didn't.
No, we didn't.
There we go.
No, it was a permanent deal, but there was no fee paid.
Nice one. Okay, so congratulations to the women's team as well. They beat Nottingham Trent, the not real University of Nottingham, by 7-2. They were 2-1 down at the half time, and then goals from Amber Sharp, Emily Blythe, who got a brace, and then Beth Wharton got what's a 4? Is that a glut? Or is a haul? 4's a haul, isn't it, in terms of goals? But got 4. And then they've got Grimsby Borough at the Bradley away on Wednesday night. So if anybody's got nothing to do and is looking for a game to go to, it is going to be an absolute cracker because they've got 5 games remaining to win the league. So all in all, it looks great there. I think it's Graham Rogers and who's the other one? I've noted it down. Haley Cox, who's managing the team now since Dale moved on. So all in all, it looks pretty good. I don't know if anyone's got down to them, but it looks like it's going to be a cracking end to their season.
It does, doesn't it? And there's some good teams doing some good things in the town, aren't there? It leads us on quite nicely to Grimsby Borough, who won the league yesterday. So I think we should congratulate them on behalf of the pod. And Cleethorpes Town go marching on, don't they?
I don't know where Cleethorpes Town are in their league. Where are they? Someone's going to shout at me now because I don't know.
They're trying to get in the playoffs, aren't they? Or they're in the playoffs.
I think they were pushing on playoffs, weren't they? Because they had I remember just briefly having a look because someone was on loan there earlier in the season.
They're third. So Mask United are going to go up, or Liversedge. They've got 82 or 80 points. Then Cleethorpes Town with 62. So it's Stockport and Shields. It looks like they'll get the playoffs at least. Looks all good. Actually, no. Ignore me. That's 2021-2022 league. So that's the
the power of Google.
No, that's right. 2021-2022 league.
Yeah, that's this season. Yeah,
but it says 16 teams. That's not right. They've played 15 games. Someone tell me. It'll be nice to see where they're going because it's not a bad
If the women do win the league, it would be nice to see them have a little presentation on the pitch before a home game or at halftime during a home game, or even at the end of the season, just to see them have a little lap of. I remember going to Mansfield away in about 2006, something like that, and they had a couple of like under 13 and under 14 sides who had won like a youth tournament. And they paraded them around the pitch at halftime during the game, and I thought that was like a really nice touch to give them a bit of recognition from the core fan base that wouldn't normally see those games. So it'd be nice if the women do achieve something, we could do something similar.
It's just a shame the pitch can't, take the battering of 2, because I think a Saturday at Blundell Park for the men and then a Sunday for the women's would be amazing. But I think the groundsman would kill me if I keep suggesting it. Anything else we've got before we talk about winning awards and whatnot? Good stuff. Okay, so we are up for a nominated non-league Bible award. You can vote from tomorrow. We'll tweet something out. There are lots of Grimsby actives, sort of participants within it. So Lee Blees is up for photographer. Marina Hodo is up for video content for fans. Liam Emerson is up for club content. And I believe there is somebody else, and I'm going to be very embarrassed that I can't remember who it is, but somebody else I think has got an award there as well on the town side of things. So look through it, vote as you would do. Oh yeah, and we're also up for it as podcast, which is probably worth noting. So if you want to go and vote on that, that would be really appreciated. We're up against places like Wrexham's, Swans, and the like, who get quite a lot of support from TikTok and their new American fan base. So anything you'd like on that one. Gentlemen, before we go, is there anything else you'd like to discuss? Because we're coming up to the hour. Liam. I said Liam Lloyd. Liam's on there, isn't he? Yeah, Liam's on it. Anybody else got anything to comment on?
Either of you going? Well, Tom might be going Saturday. Are you up Saturday, Alex, or not?
No. It's like
no.
£2.50 a mile at the moment, isn't it?
It is. That was I was going to raise that point. I saw a couple of comments when you were talking about the fans, and I think you need to factor in as well. I know it's going back half an hour, but it's the end of the month, and there were 2 games in 5 days or 4 days, and an average family spending 30 or 35 quid on 3 tickets. People are feeling the pinch, aren't they, with bills and stuff at the minute. I think that needs factoring into the attendances for the last couple of games.
I mean, even I'm looking at Weymouth going, it's a couple of hours away. Like, do I want to do it? John Lewis is saying Weymouth is next for him. And I really want to do that because it's a new ground. But I can imagine a lot of town fans are thinking, do I really want to go down to Dorset? It's a long old trek.
I don't, and I've got to go.
And you get it free.
I get paid to go.
You know what? Our hardcore though, they're pretty hard, aren't they? They go watch town before they feed the families.
They're probably all there already. Well, they just follow Elliot around because he's like dropping his gyro food around. His gyro doesn't sound good, does it? He's got
there's a lot going for 3 and 4 days.
He's got to sign on before he has to go write his report. Anything else really? Are we all good? I feel like I'm saying that a lot.
Do we think we need to win at Chesterfield for it to be a good points return from these 4 games? It would be we've got 4, so it would be 7 from 4, which I think would be excellent. 5 from 4 feels a tiny bit low from the 4 games. What do we think?
Yeah, I think 5/4 is quite low, but I don't see us getting anything at Chesterfield.
The home form's not brilliant, and they've not been brilliant since Paul Cook came in, so I wouldn't write it off. I think Bournemouth was on paper probably a tricky away fixture. When you look at the home forms not bad, don't get me wrong, but it's not absolutely glistening, and certainly since Paul Cook came in, it's not been amazing.
Did you hear him, Tom? Tom, hang on a minute. Oh, I'm not going. I don't see us getting anything at Chesterfield. Tom, come on. Let's have some bloody positivity. When did we last lose at Chesterfield?
We could get a point, I guess.
That's better. A point would be all right. Oh, I don't see us getting anything at Chesterfield. That could be the title of the pod. Forget the towels.
Yeah, you just want that on there. But I don't know. It's any team above us. Just write it off. Like, I'm not annoyed. Like, why would you be like? And then it seems to have worked well this season, at least. But ever since they've lost Tish Mangoes, they've that's their man, isn't it? And that's the problem when you put all their eggs in one basket, isn't it? You become quite vulnerable. It looked quite a decent idea at the beginning. But yeah, it's a bit of a, you never know. It'll be nice. How many are we expected to go?
1,800, I think.
Is that all they're letting us have?
Isn't that stand behind the goal? That'll be that full stand, won't it? I would have thought.
Yeah, maybe a little bit to the side, I guess. Daniel Randall saying they've got Stephen Payne as well. Does he play? Stephen Payne can't play, can he?
That's nuts that he's there.
Stephen Payne. Let's have a look. How many games has he played for Chesterfield this season? 16. He's on loan at Havant and Waterlooville, apparently.
It's a bit more fitting, isn't it?
Unlike his shirt. Yeah, I guess, and that's it really. So Chesterfield coming up. I hope everyone will be there. I won't be because I'm not an idiot. I've also got COVID, so you don't want me near you. I assume someone at Boreham Wood gave me COVID, which is why I'm on desk doorstep at the moment. Tom, anything else to add before we go? Are you going to leave with some positivity that's grounded in reality instead of the older shot rubbish?
Yeah, backed by 1,800 fans. Of course, we can go and get the points at Chesterfield. Up the mighty Mariners.
And Elliot, have you got anything else you want to talk about or plug even? I guess you might have some stuff coming up this week.
Yeah. It should be another good week. Looking forward to it. It should be a good game at Chesterfield. It's a nice ground to go to. And the last time that they took that sort of away figure was obviously Notts County, and that's the best game of the season by far for me, just for everything involved in it. So should be a good week. I'd say keep an eye out for that Jordan Cropper interview tomorrow morning because it was very interesting to talk to him, and I think people will be interested.
And Bruce, do you have anything else to flog? Do you want to show off your cabinet again just before we go?
No, but I don't think people need to buy the Telegraph tomorrow, do they? Because the back page is just going to be about the bloody Greek Shack gyros, isn't it? It's not going to be about the game.
Elliot, I guess the question I'd like to ask is because you're around given all the changes that are about, how is the atmosphere is it as united as it was at the start of the season? Is it?
Yeah, it feels good. It feels good at the minute. I think something I actually would say, I think Jason and Andrew probably deserve a lot of credit for the way they've backed Hurst in terms of all the injuries they've had recently. You know, you think they lost Reike, instantly bring in Callum Jones. Callum Jones gets injured, instantly bring in Gavin Holohan. So I do think that, Efete, although Cropper was going to sign regardless of Fetty's injury, which is now looking 3 to 4 weeks rather than 10 to 14 days. They've given him the wages to do that as well. So I think that's worth noting as well. But yeah, the camp seems good. I think definitely since the turn of year, let's be fair, it was bad between the end of October and December. But after that COVID break, I think they've played pretty well. Yes, they didn't get the points when they were playing the top teams. When they lost at Wrexham narrowly, lost at Halifax narrowly. But generally the form in 2022 has been more akin, or certainly performance level, should I say, has been more akin to the start of the season when they won, 8 of the first 12?
Well, you can't really say better than that then, can you? Because we're in pretty decent hands. And I'm very sorry to both Debbie, Jason and Andrew, because I've ghosted them while I've been dealing with work and COVID, because they have asked if they could come on the podcast. So we'll get it arranged and I'll go cap in hand and ask apologies to get it sorted. But it looks great. It's probably, I won't get ahead of the commercial manager. That job's up for if you don't reply to emails. Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much, guys. Tom, thank you very much. I'm now going through my head thinking, yeah, Aldershot, we did have a couple of near misses in my head. But you'll be a father by next week, so it won't really matter. So enjoy parenthood, enjoy your paternity leave, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yeah, cheers. See you all.
So yeah, Elliot, thank you very much for coming.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Tom's actually just left. Okay.
It's literally gone.
Right, let's do the real pod. Anyway, Bruce, thank you very much. Yeah.
Cheers, mate. Thank you. Enjoyed it as usual, and we're pretty good timekeeping again.
We're always good at timekeeping. It's brilliant. Apart from Tom, who's already left.
Tom's gone. You've got about five.
Last in, first out.
Last in, first out. What's this?
He just takes the piss, doesn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Right. Thank you all so much for joining us. Remember to have a look at that those awards. I'll put something out on Twitter, but there's quite a few town ones to go through. So tick them off as you go. And then also, if you don't subscribe to the YouTube thing, subscribe to everything, put a review on Apple and stuff, because apparently it helps. I don't know why. And then we'll also have a look at some other things. We're going to have to put that flag vote out now that my days aren't taken up with defense stuff. So thank you so very much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your week. Which one do you want to play, Bruce? Did Scunny lose, by the way? Did they lose?
Yeah, that's
Did they win?
Poor old Scunny, yeah.
Oh,
yeah, I was just going to mention that.
Who doesn't like mentioning Scunny? But they'll be here next season. The question is, will we be? Thank you so much for your time. And see you all soon.
Scunthorpe United have lost 4-0 at home to Exeter City this afternoon. Love it.
Open wide for some soccer!